I am recording this online version of the Welcome Home Lunch for those that might be called upon to lead it from time to time. Usually what we do is we start with people have lunch, and then we go around the room and people share um, how they heard about Mountain View and what made them come back after they came the first time. How'd they come the first time, and then what made them come back. And so people share that, and then our staff get to share, and then usually I wait until the end and then finish sharing my story of how I came to Mountain View. And I kept coming back. My story is that I came here in 2002. I had just closed down a church. I had been planting for 4.5 years. It didn't take. And I was feeling pretty burnt out. I went back to school full time. I was going to try to get a PhD and go be a professor because this church stuff was hard with people leaving all the time. But during that time, Mountain View was going through a crisis. Mountain View had started about 5 years earlier. They were meeting at Bathgate Elementary School, and then they'd moved to Capitol High School. And then Mountain View kind of went through a crisis. They had been in a failed building program, partnership with a Christian school that fell apart. People lost money, people got hurt, pastor got burnt out, he ended up resigning. And so they didn't know what they were going to do. So they called me and asked if I would come and preach for 6 weeks while they tried to figure that out. I said no. I said, yeah, I'll preach for 6 weeks, but I don't want to be the pastor. Famous last words. Here I am 20 years later. But in that 6 weeks, God did a work in the church and in me, where he started healing my heart and giving me a vision for ministry, because I realized that I had what these people needed and I could help them. And they had what I needed. I wanted to teach, and they were hungry to be taught. And they were people that were seeking after God. And it was a small group in that time. They kind of were staying together for the kids because there was a good youth ministry. But right then the youth pastor was leaving, and the pastor had just left. And so we were rebuilding. And during that season is when we hired this old guy who I used to work for, named Jim Grindle, who was a classic youth worker, who said that he'd come for 2 years and train youth workers. And Brandon Brickley was his first intern that he trained, who came and took on our youth ministry and led it for, 15 years. In its heyday. We had some amazing trips and events. We actually at one point had more high school students in church on Sunday morning than we had adults. And the church was growing because of that. And we were meeting at Tesoro High School, but we knew we needed to move out of there and get a more permanent facility. And, one night when I was praying about that, God spoke to me at this worship night, and he said, I want you to get 100 people to pray for a free place for 2 years. And I said, yeah, right. And then no, 100 people to pray for a free place for 2 years. And so I told people on Sunday morning, that was a Friday night. The next Sunday morning, I told people, we need to get 100 people to pray for a free place for 2 years. I got like 132 people that raised their hands and said they were willing. And we started praying. And by Tuesday, like 2 days later, I got a call from this guy that, owns the old Jaguar or old Land Rover dealer in Mission Viejo, right on the corner of Avery and Marguerite. And I had looked at that building a ton of times because I always thought it looked like a church, or it could be a church. Everything looks like a church when you're a pastor, without a building. But we took that, I got that call from the guy, and I'm like, well, what are you doing with the building? And he said, we're going to tear it down and build a car wash. He didn't say car wash, he said auto spa, but it's just a fancy car wash. But he said, we're going to tear it down, but it's going to take us about 2 years to get the project together. I said, wow, that's amazing. You say 2 years. God just told us to pray for a free place for 2 years. Would you consider giving it to us for free? He was like silent. And then he finally goes, well, how would that work? And I said, well, we're a nonprofit. We could probably get you tax write-off. We'll pay the taxes, clean the place up. And he goes, well, I'll ask the boss. If it was up to me, I'd say yes, because I don't like having to go clean up all the graffiti and chase out all the homeless people. So he calls the boss, calls me back, the boss says no, he doesn't need the liability, he doesn't need the tax write-off. And he said, I just said, look, it's too much of a coincidence that you called me right after we got all these people praying. And would you consider, let us rent the upstairs? There's like a little bit of area upstairs. We'll rent that for office space because we're renting offices for $1,600. We'll give you $2,000 and we'll still have that free place to meet downstairs. He says, I don't want him to gouge you. I'll offer him $1,200. So he offers him $1,200 and he takes it. And we get 12,000 square feet on the busiest corner in Mission Viejo, right below Saddleback College, for a penny a foot. And God provided in this amazing way. And since the church didn't have any money, everybody pitched in, everybody like worked on it. You had little kids pushing brooms and men and women swinging hammers and youth, doing demo. And it was amazing and really brought our church together and consolidated at that time. And we really grew a young adult ministry at that time, being right there next to Saddleback College, and really just did the right things came together for that. And God blessed it. But 2 years goes by really fast. And as the 2 years were going by, we're praying and we're saying, God, what's next? Somebody said, well, you should just pray for another free place. And I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. God told us last time to pray for a free place. But let's ask God what to pray for, because when he tells us what his will is, he's going to provide that. And so we asked, and together as a community, we wrote down these words that we were hearing from God. And there were 4 themes that just kept coming up: partnership, creativity, generosity, and favor. And we didn't know what those things meant, but we wrote them down and we just gave them to the congregation. We said, everybody, we're just going to pray these things. Lo and behold, we got down to the last minute. We were going to have to move out of our place. It was going to get demoed. And we found this place over at Mariners. God opened up this opportunity where what's now Harbor Point, which is right next door to us, they had moved into the old Ocean Hills church campus and were taking it over, and they weren't filling it. They had 2 buildings on the campus. And so they were renting out one, and they rented it out to us through partnership with 2 churches on the same facility, with favor that we had with the people there. Amazing generosity of the church. And, it wasn't, a penny a foot, but it was $1 a foot, which is still an amazing deal that really helped us. And favor. God provided all of these things. And so we were stoked. And so we had it for 3 years. But 3 years goes by really fast. And in that time, we're looking for a permanent home, and there was nothing. We looked so many places. I would pray up on the hill, at Patriot Hill, where we could see all over this whole valley. And we'd pray, God, where do you want us to be? What's the location that we're going to be in? And then God opened up this opportunity here at the ranch, at the Vermeulen Ranch Market. It was a Hanson's Market, and they went out of business. And somebody at the city said, well, why don't you look into that? We talked to the owners, found favor with them. We're able to create this partnership thing in here, in this, center in the community, that brings me back a lot to what I was trying to do when I started my first church, to bring Christ to our culture in the middle of an entertainment center. Now we're here partnering with the community. We have favor with our neighbors. We have the generosity of the people around us that we have this relationship with, and we want to bless the community. And this creativity, it's a creative use of what used to be a market space and farm zoning. And so God provided so many ways. And in between, while we were building this out, God gave us a partnership with Saddleback Valley Christian School while they were still around. And the Lord provides every step of the way. He's always provided for us, and he's continuing to provide for us now. It's been an amazing ride. And even though we got in here, in 2019 at Easter, and then by 2020 at Easter, we had to, close down and go online. Man, it's been a time of growth in the life of our church, learning new things, meeting new people, reaching people all around the world, even though the amount of people that are able to come on a Sunday morning has gone down a bit. God is still growing our church, and new people are coming all the time, and people are coming to Christ all the time. And we're excited about this next season and what God has.